Today we are going to discuss about the excretory apparatus of the liver. Excretory apparatus of liver means the apparatus which transports the excretion, exocrine excretion of the liver. Clear? So here this excretory apparatus of the liver that transports the bile which is secreted by that liver, that stores it, and later on that stored bile when it is needed, that is poured in the intestine, duodenum, for the purpose of the digestion. Now, so this excretory apparatus of the liver, as I explained, that is engaged in the transportation as well as the storage of the bile. Now, this excretory apparatus of the liver having a two component or the two part, we can tell basically. The part which is located within the liver and the part which is located outside the liver. You know, or all we know that the bile is produced within the liver. Hepatocyte is the production site for the bile. So after production within the liver, the bile is transported first within the liver, and after coursing through certain ducts within the liver that make exit from the liver through two hepatic ducts. Later on, so these up to this part, that is the intrahepatic part. So here in this image we can see the intrahepatic part. The number of green colored lines, they indicates the bile ducts. Now this bile is produced by the hepatocytes. Initially they are within the bile canaliculi. These bile canaliculi, they coalesce to form a bile ductus, and as these small bile ductules, gradually they get converge, become larger and larger ductules, and later on, ultimately they form two hepatic ducts. That is the exit for the bile from the liver. Here in this image, these two hepatic ducts that can be shown, that can be seen. These two, this is right and this left hepatic ducts. And these two hepatic ducts unite to form a common hepatic duct. So, up to this level, up to two hepatic ducts, that is the intrahepatic part of the biliary excretory apparatus of the liver. Later on, these two hepatic ducts, right and left, they drain the respective physiological lobe of the liver. Means the right hepatic duct drain the bile from this right physiological lobe, and left hepatic duct drain the bile from the left physiological lobe of the liver. So this is about the intrahepatic part. Now let's go, or let's proceed with the extrahepatic part. Now here these two right and left hepatic ducts are shown. Up to that level, that is the intrahepatic part. Now these two ducts unite to form a common hepatic duct that can be seen here. So bile is poured via this, or the transported via this common hepatic duct. Now this is the storage site for this bile. That is a fibromuscular storehouse that is known as the gallbladder. So that is the storehouse for this bile, where the bile is stored. Now this is the duct of this gallbladder that is known as the cystic duct. So recalling, these two are the hepatic ducts right and left, draining the respective physiological lobe, which unite to form a common hepatic duct. This one is the gallbladder and this is the cystic duct. Now here one can notice that cystic duct and common hepatic duct, they get united to form one large duct which passes behind this first part of the duodenum, and that is known as the common bile duct. It is known as the common bile duct. This common bile duct ultimately transports the bile to this second part of the duodenum. So this is the extrahepatic part of this biliary apparatus. They are the common hepatic duct, then gallbladder, cystic duct, and common bile duct. So now we are going to focus over the extrahepatic part of the biliary apparatus. Now these are the components of the extrahepatic part as I already explained. Common hepatic duct, gallbladder, then cystic duct and a common bile duct. Now we will go for each of these parts one by one to complete our lecture. First let's start the common hepatic duct. Start with the common hepatic duct. Now here, first you should get this image. The part of the liver is cut and here this green colored thick line or this duct you can see that is the common hepatic duct. You can notice this left hepatic duct also in this image, left and right, which unites to form this common hepatic duct. Now this common hepatic duct, which is formed by the union of right and left at the right end of the porta hepatis. Now after its formation, this common hepatic duct descends in the right free margin, that is within the right free margin of this lesser omentum. Here that lies in front of this epicroic foramen. Roughly after coursing about 3 centimeter on an average, after coursing about 3 centimeter, this common hepatic duct that is joined from the right side by the cystic duct to form a common bile duct. Now here one can notice what lies behind the common hepatic ducts, behind and towards somewhat left, that is the portal vein. So that is within the right free margin of this porta hepatis, right free margin of the lesser omentum, that behind the common hepatic duct lies the portal vein, and here towards the right of this common hepatic duct, that is the cystic duct. So this is sufficient about this common hepatic duct. Now let's proceed further for the gallbladder. Now this is the view, this is a back view of this liver. One can notice this posterior aspect as well as the inferior aspect of the liver, and here this green color structure what you can see at the under surface of the liver, that is the gallbladder. So this is just to show you the location of the gallbladder, that is located in the fossa for the gallbladder, that is over the under surface of the liver. Over the under surface there is a fossa. Now these gallbladder, on an average, these are the average measurement of the gallbladder, that its length of the gallbladder is roughly 7 to 10 centimeter. It's a pear shape. So maximum breadth is 3 centimeter and the capacity of the gallbladder for the storing the bile is 30 to 50 ml. Now these gallbladder for the descriptive purpose possesses a different parts. They are the fundus, body and neck. From below upward, it's a fundus, body and neck. Here one can see this pear-shaped gallbladder is there. The lowermost part, this one is the fundus. In continuity with that, this one is the body, and above the narrow part, that is the neck. So these three parts are there: fundus, body and neck. Now fundus. Here this is the liver, and just below the inferior border of the liver, a projection of the gallbladder one can see. It is green colored here, and this projecting part, that is the lowermost part of the gallbladder, and that is the fundus of the gallbladder. Now this fundus is covered by the peritoneum all around. That is covered by the peritoneum all around. Now anterior to the fundus of the gallbladder, obviously one can imagine that lies the anterior abdominal wall. Anterior to this fundus, it's an anterior abdominal wall. Here, this location is related with an angle formed between the right lateral border of the rectus abdominis, or the lateral border of the right rectus abdominis and right costal margin. Here this projection of the fundus in that angle between the lateral border of right rectus abdominis and right costal margin. Now here one can notice the posterior relation also for this fundus. posteriorly it is related with the transverse column. It's a transverse column. Once again, transverse column is located behind this fundus. This one is the liver and this is the fundus. Now next to this fundus, just above the fundus lies the body of this gallbladder. Now here, this one is the elongated body of the gallbladder. Now this body proceeds, or that is located, that is directed upward and towards the left, upward, backward and towards the left. Now, as I explained previously, that this gallbladder is located within the fossa for the gallbladder. So basically, this body, it is related with the liver. That is the fossa, within the fossa for the gallbladder. So the superior surface of this body is related with the fossa for gallbladder. One can notice here, that is under the liver. And the inferior surface of the body, that is related with this first part of the duodenum. Here one can see, and here just lower to that is the transverse column. So these are the important relations of this body, that anteriorly or superiorly, one can tell the antero-superiorly, that is related with the liver, under surface of the liver, fossa, at the fossa for gallbladder. And postero-inferiorly, these two important structures, that the first part of the duodenum and transverse column. So this is the body of the liver, body of this gallbladder. Now next one is the neck of the gallbladder. Here, this one is the neck. Now this neck possesses, it's a narrow part, narrow and upper part of the gallbladder, and that possesses S-shaped tunnel. Initially that travels is forward and upward, and suddenly, abruptly, that turns backward and downward. So it possesses S-shaped curve, initially forward and upward, and suddenly that turns posteriorly, abruptly turns posteriorly, forms the that is directed backward and downward. Now sometimes from the lower part of the neck, one can see a pouch is extended. That is known as the Hartmann's pouch. A pouch is projected from the lower part, projected downwards, and that is known as the Hartmann's pouch. So this is about the neck of this gallbladder. So recalling that gallbladder having three parts. The lowermost is the fundus, then the body, and then the uppermost part is the neck. And we have discussed about the important relations of each of these parts. Now proceed further. Vascular supply of the gallbladder. Now gallbladder, here let's have a look over these arteries. That is the abdominal aorta, this is the celiac trunk, and from the celiac trunk, this common hepatic artery, and this is the proper hepatic artery, which divides into right and left hepatic arteries. This one is the right hepatic artery, and this one is the left hepatic artery. Now, here we can see from the right hepatic artery, a cystic artery emerges. Cystic artery arises. Cystic artery, which is the artery nourishing the gallbladder, that arises usually or mostly, not usually, mostly from the right hepatic artery. Now this cystic artery divides into superficial and deep branches, and these two branches all together, that is going to nourish the gallbladder. So gallbladder is nourished by the cystic artery, which is mostly the branch from the right hepatic artery, that one can see here. And as far as the venous drainage concerned, the superior surface of the gallbladder, which is in direct contact with the blood, under surface of the liver, the venous blood from this surface directly enters within the liver, and that drain within the portal radicals of the liver, directly within the liver. And the inferior surface, that is drained by one or two cystic veins, and these cystic veins also ultimately drain within the liver. Now, what I told that this right cystic artery, cystic artery mostly that arises from the right hepatic artery, but frequently variations are there. Variations are not infrequent. Here certain variations are shown. Here in this case, the cystic artery arises from the left hepatic artery. Here the cystic artery arises from the gastroduodenal artery. Here the cystic artery arises from the right hepatic but much proximal part of the right hepatic artery. Here the two cystic artery are there. So number of variations are there. So variations in the origin and in the number of cystic artery is not infrequent occurrence. Now lymphatics from the gallbladder that is drained into the hepatic lymph nodes, that is closely located near the porta hepatis. Now supply to the gallbladder chiefly derives from a cystic plexus of nerve. One cystic plexus is there, that is the offshoot from the celiac plexus. So this cystic plexus contains, that innervates the gallbladder, and that contains fibers from celiac plexus as well as right and left vagi as well as the right phrenic. Recalling that cystic plexus that receives the fibers not only from the celiac plexus from which it is offshoot, but that also receives the fibers from right and left vagi as well as right phrenic. And as far as the variety of the fibers concerned, these fibers contains both sympathetic as well as the parasympathetic fibers. The nerve fibers located within this cystic plexus, they possesses both sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers. Now these parasympathetic fibers, they are motor to the musculature of this gallbladder, while they relax the sphincter of body. While the sympathetic fibers, they constrict the sphincter of body, and that is a vasomotor. So these functions are reversed for both the sympathetic and parasympathetic fibers. So this is all about the gallbladder. So in the gallbladder, let's have a quick recap what we have studied in the gallbladder. So I have introduced the gallbladder as a reservoir of the bile, having a capacity of roughly 30 to 50 ml. And what's the location is under surface of the liver, that is within the fossa for gallbladder. Now these gallbladder having a different parts for the descriptive purpose, they are the fundus, body and neck from below upward. Now this fundus is the lowermost part that is usually that projects beyond the inferior border of this liver. Next to that is the body, and next to that is the narrowest part is neck that possesses S-shaped curve, and this neck that continues as a cystic duct. Arterial or nourishment to this gallbladder chiefly derives from the cystic artery. This cystic artery having a variable origin, but mostly that arises from the right hepatic artery. Then the venous drainage from the gallbladder, some of the venous blood, chiefly that is the venous blood from the upper surface of the gallbladder directly enters the liver and enters within the portal radicals of the liver, while the venous blood from the under surface of the liver that transmits via they drain via the one or two cystic veins. And as far as nerve supply concerned, a cystic plexus are there that possesses the fibers from the celiac plexus, from the right and left vagi, and from the right phrenic also. And that possesses both the parasympathetic as well as the sympathetic fibers. So this all about the gallbladder. Now let's proceed further. That is a cystic duct. Here once again you can see the extrahepatic portion of this biliary apparatus. This is the common bile, common hepatic duct. This one is the gallbladder, and this one is the cystic duct, what we are discussing right now. So cystic duct that arises from the neck, that not arises, that's a continuous from the neck of this gallbladder, and that descends backward as well as towards the left. Recalling that descends backward and left, or one can tell that passes downwards, backwards and towards the left, and roughly after coursing 3 to 4 centimeter, this cystic duct ends by uniting with the common hepatic duct at the acute angle, and they are going to form the common bile duct, CBD. So this is about the cystic duct that continues from the neck of this gallbladder, courses that descends backward and towards the left, and after coursing roughly 3 centimeter, that ends by uniting with the common hepatic duct at the acute angle, forming the common bile duct. Now, here I have written that within the lumen of the cystic duct, 5 to 12 spiral valves of Hister are there. 5 to 12 spiral valves are there. Here in this figure one can notice this is the cut section of through the cystic duct showing the entire lumen. So spiral valves of Histers are there, roughly 5 to 12 in number. Now these spiral valves of the Hister keeps the lumen of the cystic duct pattern. Now this is a very important triangle. Surgical, it's a very important triangle in relation to this all the ducts what we have discussed. It is known as the Kellogg's triangle. Now once again recalling that these two are the common hepatic duct. Now these two are the right and left hepatic duct. This one is the common hepatic duct. This is the cystic duct, and this is the under surface of the liver. So one triangle is demarcated here, and this triangle is known as the Kellogg's triangle. Now this triangle having a surgical importance. Now why it's a surgically important that I'm going to tell you later on. But let's first see for this boundary of this triangle. See, over the medial side, it is bounded by this common hepatic duct. Common hepatic duct. Over the lateral side and superiorly, it is bounded by the liver, under surface of the liver. And over the lateral side and inferiorly, that is the boundary is the cystic duct. So cystic duct infralaterally, under surface of the liver supralaterally, and common hepatic duct is over the medial side. So this triangle known as the Kellogg's triangle is encountered during the surgery of this gallbladder. Now here one can see that this triangle, through this triangle the cystic artery passes. And here in this figure only cystic artery is seen, otherwise the cystic vein as well as certain lymph nodes, cystic lymph nodes, as well as if accessory hepatic duct, if it is there. Sometimes, usually or mostly the bile is excreted through the liver, excreted from the liver by two hepatic ducts and later on common hepatic duct. But sometimes accessory hepatic duct is emerges from the liver. That also drain a partial, that also drain a bile from the liver, and that directly enters within the gallbladder. that is accessory hepatic duct. And if it is there, that also passes through this Kellogg's triangle. So what I want to explain that this Kellogg's triangle possesses this cystic artery as well as the cystic vein, lymph node and accessory hepatic ducts also. Now this triangle is of surgical importance. Why? Because this is the triangle that possesses certain anatomical variations in the arterial as well as the duct system. Because as I already explained, that cystic artery usually or mostly that arises from the right hepatic. But the location of the origin of cystic artery is frequently changed. That I explained in this cystic artery. So that can enters within the triangle from any direction, from the upper part of this cystic artery that come from this gastroduodenal, at that time that passes from the inferior aspect also, from this right that can enter from the left hepatic artery also. So the variable course is there for this cystic artery. Then sometimes the accessory hepatic duct, if it is present, that also is present here. So when this triangle is exposed for the surgical removal of the gallbladder, the surgeon should be aware about these variations in the duct system as well as the variations in the arterial system. That is to save the right hepatic artery, and that is to save the common hepatic duct. So by mistake the right hepatic artery or the common hepatic duct may be ligated. So surgeon should be aware about these anatomical variations in this triangle. So that is why this Kellogg's triangle is important surgically. So till now, let's have a quick recap what we have studied. First, I have introduced the extrahepatic biliary apparatus or the excretory apparatus for this liver, that is having a two-part intrahepatic part as well as the extrahepatic part. Now what are the components of the extrahepatic part? Later on we have shifted our discussion to this common hepatic duct, later on the gallbladder, then cystic duct and the Kellogg's triangle. Now this last portion in this component, that is the common bile duct. Now this one is the common bile duct. This common bile duct, that is formed by the union of this common hepatic duct and cystic duct. This common hepatic and cystic duct, they get united at the acute angle to form the common bile duct. Once again one can see this is the cystic duct, this one is the common hepatic duct. Both are united and forming the common bile duct. And this common bile duct having on an average 7.5 centimeter length, and that passes initially that lies above. This one is the first part of duodenum. First get it. This is the first part of the duodenum. So initially this common bile duct, upper part of the CBD that lies above, CBD means the short form of the abbreviation of this common bile duct. So upper part of this CBD lies above the level of first part of the duodenum. So that is known as the supraduodenal part. The next part, succeeding part of the CBD lies posterior to this first part of the duodenum. So that is known as the retroduodenal part. And the distal part is the infraduodenal part. Actually this is just to for the descriptive purpose only, otherwise as duct is continuous. So basically the CBD having a three descriptive part. That is first is the supraduodenal part, that is above the level of first part of the duodenum. Next one is the retroduodenal part, and the lowermost is the infraduodenal part, which is located below the level of this first part of the duodenum. And one more part can be described, that is the intraduodenal part. Intraduodenal part, that the distal most part of this cystic duct, CBD, that is located within the wall of this duodenum, second part of the duodenum. That can also be described. the intraduodenal part. So basically 4 parts are described. Supraduodenal, above the first part of duodenum, retroduodenal, behind the first part of the duodenum, infraduodenal, that is below the first part of the duodenum, and intraduodenal, that is within the wall of the second part of the duodenum. Now, this common bile duct, after coursing these 3, the last part is the intraduodenal part. Now here one can see one more duct comes here. That is the pancreatic duct. Main pancreatic duct. Now this pancreatic duct also expels the pancreatic exocrine secretion into the duodenum. So both these duct, this CBD as well as the pancreatic duct, that pierces the wall of the second part of the duodenum separately. That pierces the wall of the second part of the duodenum separately, but within the wall, within the course, that is the course of these ducts within the wall, they gets united. Here one can see these 2 ducts gets united. And this united part is dilated, that is known as the ampulla of Vater. This dilated part, which is formed by the union of these 2 ducts, CBD as well as the pancreatic duct. The dilated part, that is known as the ampulla of Vater, and this ampulla of Vater ultimately opens within the second part of the duodenum. So one can get that the opening within the duodenal lumen is single for both this main pancreatic duct as well as the CBD. Even though the entry of these 2 ducts within the wall of the duodenum from outside they are separate, the opening is single. And that opening lies at the major duodenal papilla in the second part of the duodenum. One elevation is there in the second part of the duodenum as a posterolateral aspect, a posteromedial aspect, and that elevation, the tip of the elevation possesses the opening of this ampulla of Vater. So this is the course of this common bile duct: supraduodenal, retroduodenal, infraduodenal and intraduodenal. Now we will go for the important relations for each of these parts. Now this supraduodenal part that lies within the right free margin of the porta hepatis, and over the left side of that this one is the supraduodenal. So over the left side of that is the hepatic artery, proper hepatic artery, and behind that is the portal vein. So these are the structure located within the right free margin of the porta hepatic, right free margin of the lesser omentum. So towards the left it is proper hepatic artery, and posteriorly it's a portal vein. So these are the relations of the supraduodenal part. Now retroduodenal part. So obviously in front of the retroduodenal part, the first part of the duodenum will be there, and other relations. Posterior to this retroduodenal part is the portal vein, and towards the left, now the artery is changed, it's a gastroduodenal artery. It's a gastroduodenal artery. And relations of the infraduodenal part. So relations of the infraduodenal, now this infraduodenal part of this CBD that passes behind the pancreatic head. Here is the location of the pancreatic head. So anterior to this infraduodenal part is the pancreatic head, and posterior to this infraduodenal part is the IVC. Actually here is the location of the IVC behind this part of the CBD, which is not shown in this figure, but it's a IVC is there, and towards the left is the portal vein and superior mesenteric vein. So these are the important relations of the common bile duct. Once again recalling about these important relations. This one is the supraduodenal part, which is located within the right free margin of the lesser omentum. The structures which lies behind this duct is the portal vein, and towards the left side is the proper hepatic artery. Retroduodenal part, the structures which lies in front is the first part of the duodenum. Obviously, because it's a retroduodenal part, so duodenum will be in front of that. Structure which lies behind to this retroduodenal part of this duct is the portal vein once again, and towards the left is the gastroduodenal artery. And relations of the infraduodenal part, so this infraduodenal part is located behind the pancreatic head and in front of the IVC. So this is all about the relations, important relations of the CVD. Now this arterial supply for this CVD. So here one can notice that the upper part of the CVD is nourished by the cystic artery. The middle part of the CVD is nourished or receives the arterial blood from the 2 or 3 tweaks or few tweaks from the right hepatic artery, and the lower part of this CVD receives the arterial blood from the posterior superior pancreatico-duodenal artery. Posterior superior pancreatico-duodenal artery, which is a branch from this gastroduodenal artery. So this arterial supply of this common bile duct, so different segments of this or different parts of the CVD receives the arterial blood from the different sources. The upper part from the cystic artery, the middle part from the right hepatic artery, and the lower part that is from the posterior superior pancreatico-duodenal artery. So till now, we have discussed about this normal anatomy of all the portion that is the component of the excretory apparatus for the liver. First, I told you about this intrahepatic part of the excretory apparatus of the liver, that is initially by this bile canaliculi and later on bile ducts. And this intrahepatic part, they get converged to form the two hepatic duct, right and left. So the bile produced by the liver find the exit from the liver by these two ducts. Then we have discussed about this extrahepatic part. So extrahepatic part having a common hepatic duct, then gallbladder, then cystic duct and common bile duct. So all the portion we have discussed. Now lastly, the applied aspect related with this biliary apparatus. First is the cholecystitis. Cholecystitis means the inflammation of this gallbladder. The gallbladder gets inflamed, and that is known as the cholecystitis, may be acute or may be a chronic. And that is more frequent, as written, that is more frequent in fair, fertile, fatty female above 40. You can see 5F are there. Fair, fertile, fatty female having a age above 40. That is more frequent in those patients, otherwise no one is barred. Now here, what's the complaint of the patient in case of this acute cholecystitis? So pain over the right hypochondrium that may radiates over the inferior angle of the scapula as well as the right shoulder. Now this radiation of this towards the right shoulder can be understood by that the nerve supply, few fibers to the cystic plexus are contributed by the right phrenic. And we know that component of the spinal segments of the right phrenic now contributing the formation of right phrenic is the C345, and the same segment innervates this shoulder also. So pain may radiate towards the right shoulder. Now cholecystitis, the patient of the cholecystitis may possess the Murphy signs. So what is the Murphy signs? It's a sharp pain on the inspiration. When the patient inspires, a sharp pain will be there when the finger is placed just below the costal margin where the fundus is located. I told you in the fundus that the fundus projects beyond this costal margin, beyond this inferior border of this liver. So when the finger is placed there and the patient, if the patient having a acute cholecystitis, so patient will complain a sharp pain on deep inspiration. That is known as the Murphy's sign. So this is about the cholecystitis. That is the inflammation of this gallbladder. Now, next important part, that is a gallstones. So, the important function of this gallbladder is the storage of the bile. Actually, not only the storage of the bile, but what the bile comes for the storage, that is modified also. Large amount of the water is absorbed and bile gets concentrated in the gallbladder. So sometimes, and the bile, we know the bile salts are there. So sometimes the bile salts gets precipitated within the gallbladder and forms the stones. Here they are known as the gallstones. Here certain stones are shown in this gallbladder. 4 or 5 stones in this gallbladder. 1 stone in this cystic duct. Here 1 stone is this called terminal part of the common bile duct. So the stones are formed by the precipitation of this bile. Now these stones are known as the gallstone, and that gallstone may irritate the wall of the bladder, and that can lead to a pain. The patient complains about the pain. And these gallstone having a complications that can inflame the wall of the gallbladder, so that can lead to a cholecystitis, what we have just discussed. So complaint in the cholecystitis, that is a pain, the patient presents with that complaint because of the cholecystitis. Now this gallstone may travels along with the bile, through the cystic duct, through the CBD, and in this route the large gallstone may gets obstructed. Here 1 stone is obstructed within the CBD. Here 1 stone is obstructed within the here is in the cystic duct, here within the CBD. So this obstruction, that will lead to a jaundice. The person will have a jaundice, and that is known as the obstructive jaundice. So person will have a obstructive jaundice, that is known as the obstructive jaundice. Now, one law is there in that only the extrinsic, actually what I told, that this gallstone can lead to a obstruction. But not only the gallstone, but certain other factors also leads to a obstruction. And that factors comes from the external aspect, the external pressure. For example, a malignancy of this pancreatic duct, malignancy of this head of the pancreatic head. So we know that the CPD passes behind the distal part of the CBD, or infraduodenal part of the CBD passes behind the pancreatic head. So if the pancreatic head having a malignancy, that can compress the CBD, so that can lead to obstruction. So that is obstruction due to the external pressure. In case of the gallstone, obstruction due to the internal problem, internal pathology. So only the external obstruction. In case of the external obstruction, gallbladder is dilated. When the external obstruction is there, for example, obstruction due to the pancreatic malignancy, the bile, the drainage of the bile is hampered, and later on the gallbladder gets dilated. So the dilatation appears only in the external obstruction. In case of the internal obstruction, what happens? The internal obstruction by the stone usually don't cause the dilatation, because in case of this internal obstruction, the associated fibrosis is there, fibrosis of the gallbladder wall is there. So that will not, the gallbladder will not be dilated. So that is only the external pressure, or only the external pressure from outside, the gallbladder dilatation will be there. If the internal obstruction is there due to the gallbladder, due to this gallstone, the dilatation will not be there. Lastly, the cholecystography. Actually, this is the radiological examination of this biliary apparatus. So here, what happens? dye is introduced within the patient. It may be through the intravenous route or maybe through this oral route. And this dye gets concentrated and secreted by the liver, by the hepatocytes along with the bile. So obviously this dye will get stored within the extrahepatic biliary apparatus, within the excretory apparatus of this liver. So when the X-ray is taken, due to this radio-opaque dye, this excretory apparatus of the liver can be seen. Here one can see this is a gallbladder, cystic duct, this is the common hepatic duct, common bile duct. So this is just for the visualization of this excretory apparatus of the liver. It's known as the cholecystography. But nowadays, this cholecystography is largely replaced by the ultrasonography, because all the features can be seen by USG also, and that is non-invasive procedure. Okay, thank you.